The Thunder are on the verge of the NBA Finals after defeating the Spurs at home in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. And we also got to talk about the Eastern Conference Finals and what the hell happened there with the Cleveland Cavaliers as the New York Knicks are back in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. Talking basketball next. All right, so I just watched the Spurs and the Thunder play Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals and SGA's post-game interview in which he was asked, when are you going to say that you had a good game? And he said, quote, when I have a good game. And that's because the dude is a winner. He was hard on himself because he had a pretty bad start to this ball game, but it all came full circle. He ended up scoring 32 points tonight, had 9 assists. He did have 6 turnovers, and I think that's the thing to be critical with SGA. If you're going to be critical about anything, obviously, his shooting wasn't, extremely impressive, but 7 for 19 shooting, 2 for 3 from 3. He got to the line, 16 for 17 on free throws. I would say he had a pretty good game, but the MVP obviously being tough on himself because he expects greatness, and that's the way it should be, right? On the other end, Victor Wembanyama didn't have a super great game, but really, it's tough for him to do that when I feel like at this point, the Thunder's game plan is do anything and everything you can to take away Vic, knock him off his feet, body him, make it as difficult as possible. He finished with 20 points and only 6 rebounds. And again, that's really how I gauge it, right? If he only has 6 rebounds, he's the biggest guy, the lankiest guy out there. That's because they are just bodies on him, right? And they are just pretty much saying, look, if Devin Vassell, you want to beat us, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, if you guys want to be the ones, Julian Champagnie, we'll let you go off and have 22 points tonight. If you guys want to beat us, knock yourself out. But we're not going to let Victor Wembanyama beat us. And that is the way to do it, right? Because in all the wins for the Spurs, the 2 that they've had in this series, Victor has played tremendous and has really gone off. That game 1, we saw it in double overtime. He had over 40 points, and he kind of carried the Spurs, right? And when he struggled, so has the Spurs team as a whole. They run through Vic, and really, that's the way it's going to be because he's just that damn good. And the other guys are still relatively young. Dylan Harper, we see the ups and downs. Tonight he played 25 minutes, only had 5 points. And then we've seen some games where he's looks like the second best player on the court. So this Spurs team, it's fine. Again, this is such a great season for them to make the Western Conference Finals. I still think this series isn't over. I think it could go 7. I picked OKC to win the series. After game 1, I told you guys I actually felt better about OKC because I just thought Vic had a tremendous game. He had 41 and 24 rebounds. And I pretty much said it then. For the Spurs to win 4 times, Victor's going to have to do this 4 times. He's going to have crazy stats in every win because otherwise, your offense runs through him. And it's going to have to take heroic games. And it's hard to get heroic games from everyone at the same time, right? Stephon Castle played great. He had 24 points, but then you had De'Aaron Fox only 9 points tonight. And Victor, it's not even that. I'm not even saying he played a bad game, but 4 for 15 shooting ain't good, right? So it's not like he was just 4 for 10. Those are 5 shots that if you give those shots maybe to Stephon Castle and he makes 3 out of 5, now it's a closer ball game. So I hate to say Victor struggled because there's so much attention on him and he still finished with 20 points, but Victor struggled. He struggled in this game. That was the key. Again, when OKC puts the clamps down, shut him down, it's a world of difference. It's pretty much that's how the ball game is going to go. And credit to Chet. I don't even know his numbers, but Chet I thought played a lot better. 16 points, 11 rebounds. Yeah, 6 for 9 shooting, a lot more assertive in 30 minutes. Hartenstein was great. 15 rebounds, and it looked like any rebound up in the air, he was at its peak trying to get that board to make sure that Wemby didn't get it. He finished with the team high. I guess Cason Wallace had the team high plus 29 in the plus minus category, but Hartenstein was great, plus 24 tonight. His minutes out there really were a huge impact. He was making shots, 6 for 8 field goal. That teardrop runner shot that he's got going on, it seems to go in most of the time. So, OKC was at home. This is what you expect. They got contributions. McCain had 20 points. He went 3 for 9 from 3. And again, all the starters except for Lou Dort, who were in double figures. Lou Dort only had 7 points, but then you had Caruso with 22 on 5 for 10 shooting. Again, following a game where Caruso only put up one shot. And it was a shot that he came in the fourth quarter off the bench and put it up right away. And it was an ugly, quick shot. Really didn't have much impact. And he played great tonight. So the Thunder are in good shape. Could they win in 6? Absolutely. And I think if they execute their game plan of shutting down Vic, I think the role players for the Spurs can play better. But it's tough and it's exhausting. And it's hard for the Spurs maybe not to feel deflated if they get down by 10-plus points. So the Thunder got to try to be on the attack. The last 3 games, I mean, both games at San Antonio and even tonight, the Spurs have come out and been the aggressor and thrown out the first punch, essentially. They were up pretty much 10 points in the first quarter of this one as well. Now, the Thunder responded, and that's because the SGA started off like 0-for-4 shooting until he hit a 3, which was actually the toughest of the 5 shots up to that point, and he made that one. OKC was up by 2 after the first quarter, but that first quarter, the Spurs did come out and throw out the first punch. And the Thunder got to find a way to do that. Because if the Thunder can, put in the first punch in game 6 and get up 10-plus, I think at that point it's tough for the Spurs to make a comeback and come back on them. But if the Spurs can get up big again with the momentum of the crowd, yeah, this very likely goes 7. I picked OKC in 7. But I mean, I hate to not give the Spurs their credit. I'm trying to give them their credit. And to me, it's a good season, even if it ends in 6. But I do think OKC will shut this down in 6. I think even the last game, OKC had a fine game plan. They had good looks. They just were missing everything. They just had a really, really terrible shooting day. Just like their head coach said, essentially, sometimes you just have one of those days. And I think ever since game 2, OKC has kind of figured out the Spurs a little bit by shutting down Victor and letting the other guys beat them in a way, which they just haven't been able to up until this point. I mean, again, they did in game 4, but I'm saying game 4 was as much, in my opinion, as the Thunder beating themselves, because I did think that they had good looks, and that's why they didn't score, right? Tonight they put up 127 points. And if you look at game 4, I mean, they only put up 82 points. They eclipsed 82 points in the third quarter tonight. So, again, that game 4, yes, the Spurs won by 21 points, but I think it was more so just the Thunder really shooting terribly. I feel like they had the right game plan going. So we'll see how it goes in game 6, but I think the Thunder will close it out Thursday in game 6 and find their way back into the NBA Finals. Speaking of the NBA Finals, I was at the game in Cleveland yesterday where the Knicks closed the door on the Cavaliers, and it was a sad scene post-game in Cleveland when you saw how many Knicks fans took over that arena. Tough to see that in Cleveland. I think Cleveland has a great fan base, but you could feel the momentum. I think, again, I've talked to a couple of friends, and I've told people this. I don't think if you want to, blame James Harden's defense, that's fine. But blame the defense by James Harden in game 3 and other games in this series. But everyone is going to look at that game 1 in Madison Square Garden where the Knicks come back down 22 in the fourth quarter. And really, I mean, that to me, that's all on the coach. Kenny Atkinson lost that game. And it's a popular thing. It's a clickbaity thing to say James Harden's defense, Brunson schooled him, but go watch the highlights. Go look at those shots Brunson's making. Those are tough shots. Even the 3 to cut it to 5 when Brunson had hit like 3 or 4 shots in a row. I mean, yes, it's not all NBA level defense by James Harden, but you're not expecting that from him. But there's a hand in his face. Brunson's got a hand in his face. Harden's there. It's not like Harden fell on his ass and just sat there and let him shoot a wide open 3. Harden was trying, right? But when you watch game 3 back in Cleveland, there's 2 minutes left, and Brunson's just zigzagging through the defense and gets a layup. I mean, that is embarrassing. That's where the Cavs, I feel like, kind of gave up. And then you go into this game 4, and it seems like the only one that didn't give up was Donovan Mitchell. And there's not much he can do when the Knicks are rolling like they were. Brunson only finished. He won MVP for the series, rightfully so, as he should have. But he just finished with 15 points on 6 for 14 shooting. They didn't even need him much. He played 31 minutes. All their starters, out of all their starters, he's the one that played the most with 31 minutes, right? And, I mean, their bench came in. Shamet had 16 points. Miles McBride had 11 points. Mitchell Robinson had 8 and 10. And on the other side with the Cavaliers, I mean, it was just Donovan Mitchell pretty much. That's it, 31 points. Evan Mobley, 15 and 7. Jared Allen, where were you? 6 points, 3 rebounds. Max Strus started finally, kind of late, in my opinion. I don't know why we had Dean Wade starting for the majority of this series. And I've been saying this since the Detroit series. And not that I know more coaching, absolutely not. But why was Dean Wade the starter this whole time? The Cavaliers just didn't play with a sense of urgency. Donovan Mitchell in his post-game presser literally said what I've been saying on this show for the past 2 weeks. The Cleveland Cavaliers play with their food. They get comfortable. They take teams for granted. They sleepwalk through games that aren't must-win games. And then when their backs are against the wall, they suddenly decide, all right, guys, it's time to try. Well, it's a little too late, and it hit you in the mouth right here with the Knicks because you thought that you could do that. And again, maybe in game one, they didn't, because in game one, like I said, I give the players credit. I thought the players came out and played a good game with effort coming off of game 7 on the road in Detroit. But then Kenny Atkinson dropped the ball. He had 4 timeouts to use. Really, he had 2 timeouts to use with 4 minutes left before the cutoff. At 3 minutes left on the clock in the fourth quarter, the team can only carry 2 timeouts into that under 3-minute time. At the time when they were up 20 or whatever it was, he had 4 timeouts. He didn't burn one of those 4 timeouts until that lead had been cut to a 5-point lead. When Brunson hit that 3, that's when he decided to call the timeout. And then he said post-game he doesn't like to use his timeouts because he likes to keep them for the end. Well, if you had used those timeouts, maybe you wouldn't have needed them in the end. And you still had another one to use before the 3-minute mark, or else you lose it. So I don't understand. Like I said, Kenny Atkinson dropped it there. But, in a way, this team did it to themselves in the Toronto series and the Detroit series. They should have closed those series out way earlier. But the players play with their food. They don't try as hard until their backs are against the wall. Maybe they learned their lesson in game 1 against the Knicks. And then at that point, the coach dropped the ball. And the coach, in my opinion, also, he doesn't make adjustments. He doesn't have a sense of urgency. So the news came out today that they're going to retain him going into next year. And honestly, I'm very confused by the decision. I think this whole playoff series, even the successes of this playoffs for the Cavaliers of beating Toronto in 7 and beating Detroit in 7, I wouldn't feel good about that. I thought the Cavs were way more talented than those 2 teams, and it took 7 games because the coach sits in his chair and has a laid-back style where there's no sense of urgency, and it translated to the players where they didn't turn it up in game 6. At Toronto to close out the series, they had to go back to game 7 in Cleveland. Detroit, you got them at home in game 6. Close them out. Nope, they didn't. And had to go to Detroit to game 7. They played with their food. So again, that's the story on the Cavaliers. Talking about the Knicks, their story, man, it is a exciting story that's still being written. They're on their way to the NBA Finals. You got to feel good for Knicks fans. It's been a long, long time, 27 years since they've been there. And you know what? I respect the Knicks fans, man. They showed up. They showed out. Cleveland was, honestly, it felt like 50% Knicks fans. And I don't even blame the Cavaliers. If the team's going to quit, if the players are going to quit, then why should the fan base not quit, right? And in game 3, it just seemed that like the players threw in the towel then. So for game 4, I think the Cavs fans were like, all right, if they quit, we're going to quit and sell our tickets to Knicks fans who want to be here for their team, and we'll make some extra money from the ticket sales. And the Knicks fans were there. I thought that if the Cavs didn't get out to an early lead, and if they allowed the Knicks to be up by more than 10 at any point in that first half, it was a wrap. And that's exactly what happened, because in the elimination games, it's hard to get that energy to kind of push back if your first punch doesn't land, right? And if you feel like, damn, we still got to try a lot just to get back into this game, that kind of effort, it's natural that I think they lose it, thinking even if we come back to win this game, we got to do something that no team has ever done in history and win 3 more after this. So it's discouraging for the team that's on the brink of elimination, and then for the team that's trying to close it out. And if they're up 10 and they're feeling good and they got the momentum, they're trying to close it out right there, and they're already tasting victory, right? So they just want to get there. So congrats to the New York Knicks and their fans. They're waiting now for the winner of the OKC Thunder San Antonio series. And frankly, whichever way it goes, if it's the Spurs and the Knicks or the Thunder and the Knicks, I'm excited. I think it's going to be an awesome finals, and I can't wait to watch that and break that down with you guys. So, it'll be exciting. We'll have to watch game 4. Again, I think the Thunder will close it out in San Antonio, but I'm excited to watch and see how it all plays out. I will talk to you guys then, and we will need to start talking about some football stuff soon because it's not really around the corner, but it feels like it's around the corner because we got OTAs and guys are back out on the field, and we get to see these guys. Patrick Mahomes is back on the field, so he's looking healthy, coming back from that knee injury. So we'll talk about some other sports stuff as we go on, and then there's World Cup action, which will be super exciting as well. So I'll keep the channel going, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'll talk to y'all on the next episode.